Captain Maya Torres had seen a lot of weird stuff in her 15 years of smuggling contraband through the Outer Rim, but nothing quite prepared her for an 8-foot-tall alien warrior dropping to one knee in her cargo bay. The massive creature, covered in what looked like natural armor plating and sporting enough scars to tell 1,000 war stories, had just finished tearing through her security system like it was made of tissue paper. Maya had been reaching for her plasma pistol, already calculating her chances of survival, when the beast suddenly stopped, stared at her for a long moment, and then bowed. Maya said, her weapon still half drawn. "You feeling okay there, big guy?" The alien's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Forgive my intrusion, honored one. I am Korath of the Vorthak Empire. I did not realize a human was aboard this vessel." Maya blinked. "Twice. A human?" "Yeah, no kidding. Last I checked, that's what I was, though honestly some days I'm not so sure." She gestured around her cluttered cargo bay, filled with questionable substances and definitely illegal tech. "Listen, if you're looking for someone impressive, you've got the wrong ship. I'm just a smuggler with a drinking problem and a talent for bad decisions." Korath remained kneeling, his massive head bowed. "You mock me, peacekeeper. But I understand. The legends speak of human humility." "Peacekeeper." Maya snorted. "Buddy, I once started a bar fight over a card game I wasn't even playing. The only peace I keep is the kind that comes at the bottom of a bottle." She finally holstered her weapon, realizing it would be about as effective against this mountain of muscle as a harsh word. "Look, I don't know what kind of weird alien hazing ritual this is, but I've got a delivery to make and rent to pay." The warrior's eyes, a startling shade of amber, met hers with something that looked suspiciously like reverence. The ancient texts describe humans as the great mediators, the ones who brought peace to the galaxy in the time before. "We thought your kind were legend." Maya stared at him. "The time before. Buddy, my people can't even agree on pizza toppings. We're not exactly the intergalactic Peace Corps." She paused, then added with typical Maya logic, "Though I guess if you're buying into this whole mythology thing, I should probably charge you extra for the religious experience." Korath's expression shifted to something between confusion and concern. "You jest, but the prophecies are clear. When the humans return, they will guide us through the darkness that approaches." "Right," Maya said slowly, already planning her escape route. "Well, this has been fun, but I've got places to be and things to smuggle. So, unless you're here to buy something illegal, I'm going to have to ask you to take your mythology and find the exit." But Korath didn't move. If anything, he seemed more determined. "I cannot leave you unprotected, honored one. The galaxy is not safe for your kind." Maya looked at this hulking warrior who could probably bench press her entire ship, kneeling in her cargo bay like she was some kind of deity. That's when the first uncomfortable thought crept into her mind. Maybe, just maybe, she was in way more trouble than she'd realized. 20 minutes later, Maya found herself sitting in her ship's cramped galley, staring at Korath, who had somehow managed to fold his massive frame into a chair designed for creatures half his size. He looked like a tank trying to have tea with a toddler, and Maya couldn't decide if it was hilarious or terrifying. "So let me get this straight," Maya said, nursing her third cup of synthetic coffee. "You're telling me that humans are some kind of galactic legend? Like space unicorns or something?" Korath nodded solemnly. "The texts speak of the Great Exodus, when the humans vanished from known space over 1,000 cycles ago. They were the mediators, the ones who could see through deception and bring warring factions to peace. Before they disappeared, they established the accords that kept the galaxy stable for centuries. And you think I'm one of these mythical peacekeepers?" Maya gestured to herself, wearing a stained jumpsuit and sporting a 3-day hangover. "Have you seen me? I once got banned from a space station for accidentally starting a diplomatic incident over a sandwich." "The prophecies speak of human humility and their tendency to downplay their own significance," Korath replied, which made Maya wonder if these ancient texts had been written by someone who'd actually met humans or just had a really good imagination. That's when Zeph, her Zolonian co-pilot, chose to stick his blue-scaled head into the galley. Zeph looked like someone had crossed a lizard with an anxiety disorder, and seeing Korath in their ship had clearly pushed him over the edge. "Maya," Zeph wheezed, his voice climbing 3 octaves, "there's a Vorthak warship on our scanner. Please tell me you didn't steal something from the Empire again." "I didn't steal anything from anyone," Maya said, then paused. "This week." Korath stood, his head nearly touching the ceiling. "That would be my vessel. I came seeking humans when our scouts reported unusual energy signatures in this sector." "Unusual energy signatures?" Maya asked suspiciously. "Your ship's quantum resonance matches descriptions from the ancient texts," Korath explained. "Human technology has a distinctive signature that our sensors can detect." Maya looked around her decidedly non-mystical cargo freighter with its jury-rigged systems and duct-taped repairs. "This piece of junk? It's held together with hope and questionable engineering choices." "Perhaps," Korath said, "but it still registers as human-made. There are only a few vessels of your people's design left in the galaxy." Zeph was practically vibrating with nervousness. "Maya, the Vorthak ship is hailing us. They want to know if you're actually human." Maya stood up, her mind racing. "Okay, so let's say I believe this insane story. What exactly are you people expecting me to do? I'm a smuggler, not a diplomat. I solve problems by running away from them or shooting them, preferably in that order." "The galaxy stands on the brink of war," Korath said gravely. "The hegemony and the coalition have been building fleets for months. Without mediators, this conflict will consume everything." "And you think I can stop it?" Maya laughed, but it came out more desperate than amused. "I can't even stop my own ship from falling apart." Korath's expression was deadly serious. "The prophecies are clear. When the darkness comes, the humans will return to guide us." Maya stared at him, then at Zeph, who was clearly hoping she'd figure out how to get them out of this mess. She thought about her simple life of smuggling, drinking, and avoiding responsibility. Then she thought about galactic war and the possibility that she might actually be expected to do something about it. "Well," she said finally, "this is either the biggest scam in the galaxy, or I'm about to have the worst day of my life." As if on cue, her ship's communication system crackled to life with an incoming message from the Vorthak warship. Maya Torres, professional smuggler and amateur disaster, was about to discover just how much trouble one human could get into. The Kepler station orbited a dying star, which Maya thought was probably a metaphor for her life choices. What should have been a routine stop for fuel and supplies had turned into something resembling a religious revival meeting. If religious revival meetings involved heavily armed aliens prostrating themselves in docking bays. "This is getting ridiculous," Maya muttered, watching through the viewport as another group of station personnel dropped to their knees. "I haven't even gotten off the ship yet." Korath, who had appointed himself her unofficial bodyguard, stood behind her with the intensity of someone guarding the crown jewels. Word travels fast in this sector. The return of a human is significant news. "Yeah, well, the return of my breakfast is looking pretty significant too," Maya said, her stomach churning from the stress. "This is insane. I'm nobody special." That's when Admiral Quill strutted into the docking bay, and Maya immediately understood why the galaxy was in trouble. The Admiral was a Kepler native, which meant he looked like a peacock that had been crossbred with a politician. His feathers were perfectly groomed, his uniform was pressed to military precision, and his entire demeanor screamed, "I take myself way too seriously." "Honored human," Quill announced, his voice carrying the kind of authority that suggested he'd practiced this speech in the mirror. "Welcome to Kepler Station. I am Admiral Quill, commander of this facility, and I am at your service." Maya looked at Zeph, who shrugged helplessly. "Service?" I just want to buy some fuel and maybe a sandwich that won't give me food poisoning. Of course, Quill said, completely missing the point. Whatever the great mediator requires, we will provide. The station's resources are at your disposal. Great mediator? Maya repeated. Look, Admiral, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm just a cargo hauler with a talent for bad timing. But Quill's eyes lit up like someone had just offered him a promotion. Ah, the legendary human modesty. Just as the texts describe. Maya was starting to hate these texts. What texts? Who wrote these things? And more importantly, can I sue them for defamation? The Codex of the Ancients, Quill said reverently. It speaks of the return of the humans during the galaxy's darkest hour. The signs are all there: the growing conflict between the hegemony and the coalition, the breakdown of the old treaties, the rise of extremist factions. Sounds like a typical Tuesday in my line of work, Maya said. Galaxy's always got some kind of crisis going on. That's when things got interesting. Quill leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. The hegemony has been building a fleet. Massive. More ships than anyone's seen since the succession wars. They're planning something big, and the coalition is mobilizing in response. Maya's smuggler instincts kicked in. War meant disrupted trade routes, which meant higher prices, which meant more profit. How big are we talking? Big enough to glass entire systems, Quill said. Both sides are convinced the other is planning a first strike. Without intervention, this ends in genocide. And you think I can stop it? Maya asked. I once got lost in my own ship's maintenance tunnels. The prophecies speak of the human gift for seeing through deception, Korath interjected. Your people could always identify the truth beneath the lies. Maya looked around the docking bay at the aliens watching her with expressions ranging from hope to desperation. She thought about her comfortable life of crime, her simple goals of profit and survival. Then she thought about entire civilizations being wiped out while she worried about her next paycheck. Okay, she said slowly, hypothetically speaking, if I were to help with this situation, what would that involve? Quill's feathers practically vibrated with excitement. The coalition has agreed to peace talks, but only if a neutral mediator can be found. Someone both sides trust. And they trust humans? They trust the legend of humans, Korath corrected. Your people's reputation for fairness and wisdom is legendary. Maya snorted. Clearly they never met my Uncle Bob. But even as she joked, she could see the hope in their eyes. These beings from different species and different worlds were looking at her like she might actually be able to fix things. It was terrifying and oddly flattering at the same time. All right, Maya said finally, I'll bite. But I'm not promising anything, and I'm definitely charging hazard pay. The relief on their faces was almost enough to make her feel guilty about her profit motive. Almost. The coalition's flagship looked like someone had taken a city and decided it needed to fly. Maya stared at it through the viewport of her considerably smaller ship and wondered if it was too late to fake her own death and retire to a nice quiet asteroid somewhere. I should have stayed in the smuggling business, she muttered. Worst case scenario, there was getting shot by customs agents, not preventing galactic genocide. The hegemony delegation has already arrived, Korath reported, studying his tactical display with the intensity of someone who actually knew what all those blinking lights meant. Their flagship is holding position on the far side of the station. Maya had met the hegemony delegation earlier, and they'd been about as charming as a tax audit. Led by General Thane, a scarred veteran who looked like he'd been carved out of granite and bad intentions, they'd spent the entire preliminary meeting questioning whether Maya was actually human or just an elaborate coalition trick. Let me guess, Maya said. They want proof that I'm the real deal? General Thane has requested a private audience, Zeph reported, his voice tight with nervousness. He says he wants to test your authenticity. Great. A pop quiz on being human. What's next? A standardized test. The meeting took place in the station's neutral conference room, which had been decorated with the kind of aggressive blandness that suggested the designer had been trying to offend absolutely no one. General Thane sat across from Maya, his augmented eye glowing red as it scanned her, while his aide, a thin creature that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts, took notes. So Thane said, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer, "You're supposed to be humanity's great mediator?" "I'm supposed to be a lot of things," Maya replied. "According to my mother, I was supposed to be a doctor. According to my ex-boyfriend, I was supposed to be less sarcastic. According to my tax records, I'm supposed to be a legitimate businesswoman." Thane's expression didn't change. "The coalition believes you can end this conflict. I have my doubts. Join the club. I have doubts about most things, starting with my choice of breakfast cereal this morning." "This is not a joke," Thane growled. "Billions of lives hang in the balance." Maya's expression sobered. "You think I don't know that? You think I asked for this? 3 days ago, my biggest worry was whether I had enough fuel to make it to the next system. Now everyone's looking at me like I'm some kind of cosmic therapist." "The tests from the ancient archives confirm your species," Thane said. "But species means nothing. Any fool can be born human. What makes you think you can succeed where trained diplomats have failed?" Maya leaned back in her chair, studying the general's scarred face. "You want to know what I think? I think you're all making this way more complicated than it needs to be." "Enlighten me." "Me. You're fighting over resources, territory, and pride, same as every other war in history. The coalition thinks the hegemony is planning to attack. The hegemony thinks the coalition is planning to attack. And you're both building bigger fleets to prove how much you don't want to attack each other." Thane's augmented eye whirred as it focused on her. "And your solution?" "Stop lying to each other," Maya said simply. "Half this conflict is based on assumptions and rumors. The other half is based on politicians trying to look tough for their constituents. You oversimplify." "Maybe. Or maybe everyone else is overcomplicating things." Maya stood up, pacing to the window that showed both fleets facing each other across the void. "Look, I don't have fancy training in diplomacy or years of experience in interstellar politics. But I know people, and I know when someone's scared." "Scared?" Thane's voice was dangerously quiet. "Terrified," Maya corrected. "Both sides are scared the other is going to strike first, so you're both preparing to strike first, which makes the other side more scared, which makes them prepare even more. It's like two people in a dark room, both convinced the other one has a gun." For the first time since she'd met him, General Thane looked genuinely thoughtful. "And if they both have guns? Then you turn on the lights and have them put the guns on the table where everyone can see them." Thane studied her for a long moment. "You would have us reveal our military capabilities to our enemies?" "I'd have you reveal your military capabilities to your neighbors," Maya corrected. "There's a difference." Something in Thane's expression shifted. "You really believe this could work?" Maya looked out at the two fleets bristling with weapons and suspicion. "I believe most people don't actually want to die in a war over a misunderstanding. The question is whether their leaders are smart enough to realize that. And if they're not." Maya shrugged. "Then I guess we all learned the hard way that sometimes the galaxy really is as stupid as it looks." Maya had been to some questionable places in her career, but sitting in the command center of a coalition flagship while two massive fleets prepared to blow each other to pieces definitely made the top 10. The bridge was a chaos of activity, with officers running between stations and screens showing tactical displays that looked like someone had sneezed on a Christmas tree. Status report. Admiral Voss, the coalition commander, barked to his staff. His species looked like someone had crossed a bear with a nervous breakdown, and the current situation wasn't helping his disposition. Hegemony fleet is powering weapons, came the reply. General Thane's flagship is moving to an attack position. Maya looked at the tactical display, where hundreds of ships were slowly arranging themselves into what any civilian would recognize as about to start shooting. She'd seen bar fights start with less posturing. "This is stupid," she announced to the bridge in general. "You're about to kill each other over a misunderstanding." "It's not a misunderstanding," Admiral Voss replied. "Our intelligence clearly shows." "Your intelligence shows what they want you to see," Maya interrupted. "Same as their intelligence shows them what you want them to see. You're both operating on assumptions and worst-case scenarios." Korath, who had remained her constant shadow, stepped forward. "The human speaks wisdom. Perhaps we should listen." "Listen to what?" Voss demanded. "She's not even a trained diplomat." "No," Maya said, "but I am trained in reading people who are trying to cheat me, lie to me, or kill me. And right now both fleets are doing all three." That's when the communication system crackled to life. General Thane's scarred face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim. "Coalition fleet, this is General Thane. We have detected weapon signatures consistent with a first strike formation. Explain yourselves." Admiral Voss stepped forward. "General, we are in defensive posture only. Our sensors show your fleet powering offensive systems. It's defensive posture." Thane's augmented eye glowed brighter. "You have destroyers flanking our position." Maya walked over to the communication console, pushing past the protesting communications officer. "General, this is Maya Torres. Can you confirm that your fleet is preparing to attack?" "We are preparing to defend ourselves," Thane replied, "as any reasonable force would when facing hostile intentions." "And Admiral," Maya turned to Voss, "can you confirm that your fleet is preparing to attack?" "We are responding to clear threat indicators," Voss said stiffly. Maya looked between them, then at the tactical display showing both fleets in increasingly aggressive positions. "So let me get this straight. You're both preparing to defend yourselves from each other, which looks like preparing to attack each other, which makes you both prepared to defend yourselves more, which looks even more like preparing to attack." "The tactical situation is complex," Voss began. "The tactical situation is stupid," Maya said bluntly. "You're about to fight a war because you both think the other side is about to fight a war." "The risk of being caught unprepared," Thane started, "is outweighed by the certainty of everyone dying if you keep this up," Maya finished. "Look, I've got an idea. It's either brilliant or completely insane, but given the circumstances, I'm not sure there's a difference." She turned to the communications officer. "Can you patch me through to both fleets?" "That would be highly irregular," the officer stammered. "So is galactic genocide," Maya pointed out. "Patch me through." But within minutes, Maya found herself addressing both fleets simultaneously, her image appearing on screens throughout hundreds of ships. She looked at the camera, thought about all the lives hanging in the balance, and decided to do what she did best, tell the truth. "Hi everyone," she said, her voice carrying across space to both fleets. "I'm Maya Torres, and apparently I'm supposed to prevent you all from killing each other. Now, I'm not a military strategist or a diplomat, but I am someone who's spent most of her adult life dealing with people who want to cheat, rob, or shoot me. And right now, that's exactly what you're all doing to each other." She paused, watching the tactical display. "Here's what's going to happen. Both fleets are going to power down their weapons, back off to a safe distance, and then we're going to have a conversation like civilized beings. Because the alternative is that you all die, your families die, and future generations get to learn about the day the galaxy committed suicide over a misunderstanding." The bridge was silent. Both fleets remained in attack formation. "Or," Maya continued, "you can ignore the weird human and go ahead with your war. In which case, I'm going to take my ship and leave, and you can all explain to your children why Daddy won't be coming home because he was too proud to admit he was scared. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the hegemony fleet began to power down its weapons. The coalition fleet followed suit. Maya watched the tactical display as both fleets backed away from each other, and she realized she'd just prevented a war by basically telling two entire civilizations to grow up. Well, she said to the bridge in general, that was either the best or worst speech in galactic history. Korath bowed deeply. It was perfect, Honored One. Maya looked at him, then at the tactical display showing the two fleets maintaining a cautious peace. You know what? Maybe it was. 6 months later, Maya Torres sat in her expanded cargo bay, which now doubled as an unofficial diplomatic meeting space. The irony wasn't lost on her that the same ship she'd used to smuggle illegal goods across the galaxy was now hosting peace negotiations between warring factions. The Kelton Accord is ready for your review, Zeph announced, his nervousness about their new line of work having settled into a kind of resigned acceptance. Both sides have agreed to the territorial boundaries you suggested. Maya looked up from the cargo manifest she'd been reviewing. Old habits died hard, and she still maintained her smuggling operations alongside her new career as the galaxy's most reluctant mediator. Any complaints about the trade route provisions? Admiral Quill thinks the inspection protocols are too lenient, Zeph reported. General Thane thinks they're too strict. Perfect, Maya said. If both sides are equally unhappy, I probably got it right. Korath approached, his massive form somehow managing to look both intimidating and oddly protective. In the months since their first meeting, he'd become her self-appointed bodyguard, strategic advisor, and occasional voice of reason. The hegemony has requested your assistance with the Outer Rim dispute. The one where they're fighting over mining rights, or the one where they're fighting over who gets to fight over mining rights? The mining rights. Maya sighed. Schedule it for next week. And make sure there's good food at the negotiations. People are less likely to declare war when they're not hungry. It was a strange life, she reflected. Half the galaxy now knew her name, though most of them still thought she was some kind of mystical figure rather than a sarcastic cargo hauler with a talent for cutting through diplomatic nonsense. She'd prevented 3 wars, negotiated 24 trade agreements, and somehow become the go-to person for interstellar conflict resolution. The best part? She was making more money than she'd ever made smuggling, and it was technically legal. You know what the funny thing is? Maya said to Korath as they watched another diplomatic transport dock with their ship. These ancient texts everyone keeps talking about? I finally tracked down a copy. And? Wind? Turns out they're not prophecies at all. They're just historical records of what humans were like before we disappeared from this part of the galaxy. Apparently my people really were better at this mediation stuff. Korath's expression was thoughtful. Does that change anything? Maya considered the question. Not really. I mean, it's nice to know I come from a long line of people who were good at telling other people to stop being stupid. But at the end of the day, the job's the same. And you enjoy it? Maya looked around her ship, at the diplomatic documents mixed with smuggling contracts, at the alien dignitaries sharing space with black market goods, at the life she'd somehow built out of pure accident and cosmic irony. You know what? I think I do. It's like smuggling, but instead of moving cargo, I'm moving people toward not killing each other. Same basic skill set, better for my conscience. A communication alert chimed, and Zeph's voice came over the intercom. Maya, we've got an incoming message from the Spiral Arm Coalition. They're having a territorial dispute with the Centauri Republic. Maya stood up, stretching muscles that had gotten used to sitting in diplomatic meetings rather than pilot seats. Tell them we'll be there in 2 days. And Zeph? Make sure we have enough coffee. I have a feeling this one's going to be complicated. As her ship prepared to jump to hyperspace, Maya reflected on the strange turn her life had taken. She'd started as a smuggler running from responsibility, and somehow ended up as the galaxy's unofficial therapist, helping entire civilizations work through their problems. The universe, she decided, had a seriously twisted sense of humor. But as she looked out at the stars and thought about the peace she'd helped create, the wars she'd prevented, and the lives she'd saved, Maya Torres had to admit something she'd never expected. Being a legendary peacekeeper was actually pretty satisfying work. Even if she was still making it up as she went along. Korath, she called out as they jumped to hyperspace, remind me to update my business cards. I think Galaxy's most reluctant mediator has a nice ring to it. Behind her, the massive alien warrior who'd first shown her the impossible respect that had changed her life simply smiled and made a note to order new cards. After all, legends needed proper documentation,